So I had tried, supplementation and minerals and vitamins, and then got into biohacking, ozone therapy. And once I skimmed the surface, I realized that this is an amazing, amazing molecule. It's going to change the world. Not all water is equal. The typical water that the human gets is what is called dead water. As we age and we get wrinkled, right, just like a raisin was a grape at one point, it is dehydrated. So to help slow down the aging process, and AKA the dehydration process, we need. Companies are saying, this is my product, and they're taking all the studies online, regardless of the flow rate, the saturation in the water, the process of injecting the hydrogen into the water, and they're just using all the studies online and saying, hey, my hydrogen product will do all this because that's what the studies show. But what the disconnect is that there's little telltale signs I could tell that this is a quality product or this is harmful or they're using cheaper materials. Our health is our responsibility. So the filter can be good for you at first, and then if you don't change it, now it can actually be more harmful. So there's so many little at-home things we could do.
So I'm so excited to have you here today. What I would love is for you to tell us a little bit about your background before we get into the depths and the real science behind hydrogen water.
Sure, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here and helping spread the word of molecular hydrogen therapy, especially with yourself, Dan. So a little bit about my background with molecular hydrogen. I've been using it for a little over 10 years now, started studying it. Got a certification course through Molecular Hydrogen Institute, which is the leading research institute. It's an excellent platform for education. I'm also certified as a holistic nutritionist as well, and herbs and supplements, strength and conditioning, nanotechnology, quantum mechanics, quantum entanglement. And so that's a little bit about my educational background that led me to this route of molecular hydrogen and understanding the body on a cellular level.
How did you get into molecular hydrogen study, going through all your other avenues of interest? And what were you looking to do before you got into this?
Well, I actually discovered molecular hydrogen therapy through the research of ozone and other medical gases. And that all stemmed from athletic performance. I was a competitive boxer, a scuba diver, an avid tennis player, and many other things. So I was always trying to find the natural way, the best way to holistically, naturally repair my body and optimize my performance. So I had tried, supplementation and minerals and vitamins, and then got into biohacking, ozone therapy, hyperbaric oxygen, high altitude training, restricted oxygen. And all those led me into oxyhydrogen. And oxyhydrogen, that study led me into just pure molecular hydrogen inhalation. And once I skimmed the surface, I realized that this is an amazing, amazing molecule. It's going to change the world. And I've been saying this for 10 years. And so here I am still standing firm in my belief that molecular hydrogen is changing the world. I'm seeing it happen. And that's, I think, due to, one, it's effective, and two, it has the highest safety profile of all medical gases.
Tell me a story of either yourself or someone that you have used with hydrogen therapy and hydrogen water as well, that is so inspirational that it lights you up when you think about it.
We're getting in stories almost every week. And some of them, wow, that's great. And some of them where I tear up. So, the one that I think moved me the most, there's so many, but I'll say, the ones that touch home with the family members. I think one of my favorite ones is, hey, we got your machine. It's been such a blessing to the whole family. It was a whim. They heard about it from a friend. The friend said, hey, you should check this out. They knew nothing about molecular hydrogen or my company. They did some research, just did a instant purchase right away. And they're like, this has literally been the biggest blessing for the whole family. They're saying that the mom and the dad, which are in their 80s, have so much more energy. Their digestion has improved. The mom and dad are getting better. The kids love it. And it's just one of those things that is like they stumbled across it as an accident, pulled the trigger, and the whole family is benefiting from it. And so things like when I receive an email like that, that really just puts a huge smile in my heart and recharges my batteries to get out there and just help more people.
Now, I'm a huge fan of hydrogen water. That's actually how we met originally. And
Correct.
going back into it, H2O has become a vernacular, as we know, where people talk about H2O, but they don't actually know what it means. So, what I'd
Right.
like you to do is debunk the theory that it's just the name H2O. It's actually the chemical name for water. So, why don't you tell us a little bit? And then I want to dive into hydrogen and all the studies, over 1,500 studies that have been done into it. So, go ahead and break down water a little bit first.
Sure. Yeah, I'm the whole topic of water is very, very, very fascinating. There's never you can never understand it completely because it's that much of a mystery the deeper you dive. So basically, water, right? This element that makes up our planet and our bodies and the world is actually two gases combined together. So that alone is very puzzling in itself. We have H2, right? Hydrogen, two hydrogen, and then O for oxygen. These are two elemental forms of gas that make up the universe and the stars. But when they become together, attached, two gases actually create this incredible liquid called water. Water can go into four different phases, and it's one of the only liquids that can do that. And so, as we're very well, water holds memory. It can be charged, it can be programmed. There's water from different sources. We get it from the rain, we get it from the sea, we get it from all different areas. And so, there's a lot of misinformation about water, pH of water, pH standing for potential hydrogen, ORP levels, oxidation reduction potential, minerals, distilled. And so we can dive into that. I'd be happy to. But yes, water is actually H2, molecular hydrogen, and O, which is oxygen combined together. So you think about what our body's made out of, primarily 60 to 80% water. And you think about what water is made out of, H2 and then O. You have H2 is more prominent than the oxygen. So hydrogen is a very natural element to our body, and it's very necessary as well.
I was a head coach on the Olympic development program and
That's right.
knew that dehydration at 3% could lead to up to 20% underperformance. But I grew up as a player back in
Wow.
where it rained. And we never
Wow.
really got into hydration because why, you look up at the skies and you're going to drink your water.
Mhm.
But I've learned more and more the importance of hydration. So let's go straight into a cellular level because not all water is created equal. So let's talk about the effect of water hydrating us at a cellular level, and then also the differences in water and how it affects different parts of our real anatomy.
Sure. Yeah, that's another amazing, amazing topic. It's super interesting that not all water is equal. It's not created equally. It's not processed equally. And when we receive it, it is not absorbed equally. So when you're talking about hydration, what we want is hydration at a cellular level. We want intracellular hydration. And then that's where our cells can perform properly and optimized. But the typical water that the human gets is what is called dead water. This is not me making this up. This is the work from Dr. Emoto and many other scientists and professionals in the field. But dead water is still water. It looks like liquid, tastes like liquid water, but the properties on a molecular level are not the same. So things that can change is actually the angle of the water molecule can change, and that can have harmful, be detrimental or beneficial for us. Things like having hydrogen-rich water, which is an excess of hydrogen in the water that's available, can increase intracellular hydration due to molecular hydrogen's size. And so it's all about cellular hydration. And as you said, you lose 3% of your hydration, you lose 20% of your performance. Well, same thing as we age and we get wrinkled, right? Just like a raisin was a grape at one point, it is dehydrated. So to help slow down the aging process and AKA the dehydration process, we need intracellular hydration, and molecular hydrogen does it the best.
Okay, so this is a great thing that comes to me all the time. Again, I'm a huge believer. I think hydration is the second most important thing in life, with oxygen being the first. But by the time we feel thirsty, we've already gone way
Mm,
past the point of hydration. But
yeah.
absorbing the water into the cells is different than just glugging. I mean, I see so many people get them, again, athletes, they'll get them, they're thirsty. We're past the point of hydration and we just down it and we feel completely bloated. What is it about that water, which I'm going to presume is a form of dead water, that's not being absorbed? And how do we better get that hydration at a cellular level to then lead the rest of the body?
Well, it's a deep question because there's many factors that make up water, the pH, the ORP level, the conductivity, the mineral concentration, the source of water, the TDS, total dissolved solids, does it have microplastics, heavy metals, fluorine, ozone? So all those things are going to factor as how well we absorb the water and how beneficial that water is for us or harmful. I mean, we can have tons of water, like you said, you glug, you feel bloated, and then what do? You pee it all out. So what does that tell you? That the water didn't really get into our cells, right? It actually just passed through our systems, flushed out some of the organs, and then came right out the urinary tract. When you have really high quality water with proper minerals, and maybe it's structured water, which gets into some theoretical things, vortexing using different magnets and things like that. Then we're adding that life back to water, and water has this quote unquote life force to it. It helps with that absorption. And so a lot of the water that sits in a plastic bottle on shelves with heat for long periods of time that's not moving is going to be stagnant, dead water. But when we have water that's moving, that's flowing, that's alive, that's breathing with oxygen and hydrogen, then it has life to it. And that's going to be more beneficial water for us. And so typically, easy test we can do is one, we do want to see where our TDS is at, total dissolved solids. This is a really at-home simple test that anyone watching can get one of these meters for as little as $30 to $40. You test the water at your home. You buy the water filters, you have the filter on your fridge. Do you know the filters are working? Right? So taking that power and knowledge into our hands is our responsibility. If the companies that you're buying products don't provide a form of measurement, then we have to educate ourselves, right? I was never a water expert, but I liked being healthy, so I had to learn, right? So I took on that responsibility to learn about the things that I can do in my power. That's not a $50,000 laboratory device, but a $40 at-home meter to test your water quality, make sure your filters are working. Your filters haven't been changed in a while and they're collecting dirt, then now this is a place that just breeds filth and germs because it hasn't been changed. So the filter can be good for you at first, and then if you don't change it, now it can actually be more harmful. So there's so many little at-home things we could do between a TDS meter, an ORP meter, ORP, oxidation reduction potential, to give us insights of the water quality we're drinking, to point us in the right direction, because there is probably close to 50 or 100 factors that we'll need to know about water to really understand it the best. But some of the easy ones are a TDS meter, or an ORP meter, a pH meter, a chlorine, maybe a chemical reaction agent for chlorine to make sure you're not drinking chlorine. So these are the little things and inexpensive, easy that we can do at our homes to make sure the water we are getting isn't that bad, or hopefully it's great.
It's interesting you say that, because I have the typical refrigerator now that has the water that comes out and it has the filter that goes in there. And so I got one of the meters, I tested it, and my water was just as bad as coming out of the tap unfiltered. So then I changed the filter in
Right.
my refrigerator, put a new one in, ran it a little bit because obviously it's been static, and the filter made no difference to the water. So just because it's a filtration
Wow.
system doesn't mean to say it is actually doing what it says it does. It could be a commercial gimmick, but something that you talked about, the size of the hydrogen molecule is the smallest molecule, the atom, I should say. The hydrogen atom is the smallest atom in the world. Explain how that helps to absorb the water into the cells with the right process.
Sure. So, yes, the molecular hydrogen and hydrogen is the smallest molecule in the universe, in the world. And due to its molecular size, it gives us the highest bioavailability. Bioavailability meaning it can go into our cell walls. It can actually pass into the cell walls, affect the nucleus, and things like that. So because the H2 is attached to the O, which is creates water, but it has hydrogen rich, right? An excess of hydrogen in the water. Now it's attached to this water. And as it touches all of our cells, it actually can enter into our cell walls and bring in that hydration due to its molecular size. So that is why hydrogen is so effective on nearly every organ and system in the whole body because it's working on a cellular level. And that's where our focus, and right, Dan, I know you're aware of this, our focus is always on the health of our cells. When we repair the cells repair the organs and everything that runs the body.
Absolutely. So I was talking to someone the other day, and they were talking about the frequency that comes in water. And like you said, water is very different. So, two questions. First, if there's dead water, is it dead for good? Because we talk about flowing. If I took a bottle of dead water out of, let's say I went and got, I'm not going to give a brand in here because I'm not a big fan of almost any brand, but
Right.
I take it in the bottle, I start shaking it up and swirl it around. Will that re-oxygenate the water to make it into a living water again?
It will add some minor health benefits. Yes, it will. So we can take dead water that has no life force and reprogram it and add life force to it again. So that is true. That's one of those myths. If I shake up my water, does that actually help? Yes, it actually does. It does excite the water, it moves it, it oxygenates it a bit, and ideally you get some swirls. And through the research of Victor Schwalberger, I call him like the Tesla of water. He's one of the greatest minds in our history that understands water, and he knows very well about vortexing water and how much it adds that life force back to the water.
Okay, so we got to the point where I want to get into hydrogen water itself and going to your website, reading about you and reading about the benefits of hydrogen water. I know that it goes from everything from anti-inflammatory to enhanced energy. You've got oxidative stress, anti-aging, so many different things. Go in and tell us about the effects of hydrogen water over just the general water that we could buy.
Sure. Yeah. So when we add available hydrogen to the water, because right, all water, H2O, has hydrogen, but it's attached to oxygen, so it's not available. So when we make hydrogen rich water and we add available dissolved hydrogen to the water and consume that, that is where we do start to see the two main principles that we know that we can say and state as a fact that molecular hydrogen does in the water and hydrogen rich water is it neutralizes hydroxyl radicals and harmful ROS, reactive oxygen species. So not all of those are bad, but the amazing thing about hydrogen is that it acts intelligently. It acts like an intelligent antioxidant, neutralizing certain oxidants, leaving other oxidants as signaling molecules. And when we do this, that domino effect of neutralizing the oxidative stress is going to, in return, reduce the inflammation because that is the root of our inflammation is excessive oxidative stress. So let's reduce oxidative stress. And then as a byproduct of doing that, inflammation goes down. And when inflammation goes down, things flow better. And then there's this just continuous domino effect. But we know that it is neutralizing oxidative stress. It is reducing inflammation as a byproduct of neutralizing oxidative stress, it is improving the electron flow in our mitochondria, which in return helps to produce ATP, which in return gives us more energy. So these are the things that we know it's doing. But then where we get even more exciting things is once we increase ATP production and our mitochondria is working better and the inflammation's down, the oxidative stress is down, what can the body then do? It does a domino of amazing things to start healing and repairing the body. There's even research showing that it improves ghrelin production in our stomach, which is our quote unquote our hunger hormone. And when you look at all the benefits from fasting, it's a lot of them stem from ghrelin production. So when we fast, the ghrelin hormone gets triggered to create more ghrelin, more ghrelin, more ghrelin, which has this very powerful effect of autophagy, and then the brain to gut connection. So there's so many benefits from fasting, as we know, but a less known fact is that hydrogen helps increase this ghrelin production, the similar benefits we get from fasting. So helping with telomerase, the telomere production and slowing the rate of how fast our telomeres shorten, the increasing the intracellular hydration. So there's so many effects that it does, and that's why it's already been studied to affect every system, every organ in the body.
So let's break this down a little bit, because a lot of people watching won't understand quite as much about the mitochondria, the cell, the ATP, how that's in the cell, the telomere at the end of the cells that are made, we know scientifically, to live for 122 years. That's what they're meant to be. And yet we're, eliminating, or we're only surviving about 60 to 70% of our lifespan in quality of living. If we take someone that is dehydrated, we know after 3 days, the chance of survival is almost none, especially in the hot conditions, because of the way that our cells begin to implode. The brain now begins to kill off brain cells, trying to take the liquid from anywhere in the body it can to keep us alive. But the beautiful thing about water is how it passes the blood-brain barrier and has a direct effect on the brain. So let's go back a little bit, talk a little bit about the mitochondria. What is it? The telomere, what is it? The ATP that's created, and then the fact that can we create the better gut health without fasting, but also if we're taking hydrogen water while we're fasting, are we getting even more effect?
So the mitochondria, for those that aren't aware, is our powerhouse. That's what generates energy for the body, is our mitochondria. If our mitochondria is low, that's going to result in a cascade of detrimental effects in the body. So I work with some doctors that only focus on mitochondrial health, because when they boost that, they see all the other health scores go up. So mitochondria is very important, and the health of our mitochondria is very important. And what mitochondria does is create this chemical, ATP, and I'm not going to try to pronounce it because I always mess up when I break down ATP. But that chemical is actually what we consider as energy in the body. And so it is all about improving the mitochondria to create more of this ATP, because when the body has energy, it has the energy to do what it's programmed to do. Detox, cleanse, right, repair, all these things. Then we're also talking about the telomeres. And yes, that is the caps on the end of, I believe, our chromosomes. And so as we age and its cellular respiration starts to break down, the telomeres will shorten and shorten and shorten. We don't want that. We want them to be long, and we want to lengthen our telomeres, and we want to slow down the rate of how fast our telomeres break down. So telomeres is, for now, it's been a while, been recognized as one of the standard go-to segments in the body to test and measurements for aging, how fast we're aging, how slow we're aging, is our telomeres, right? And you can do those tests with blood labs for, the health and quality of your telomeres. So we have telomeres, we have mitochondria, we have ATP, we have, right, the hydroxyl radicals, reactive oxygen species. These are also, not all of them are harmful. Some of them are. A lot of the hydroxyl radicals are the worst ones that we do want to eliminate. And so all of these things Certain antioxidants will go and wipe out every oxidant. We don't want that, right? Because we need certain oxidants as signaling molecules. And so uh, that's why hydrogen is just, we see what it does, but we don't know how it acts so intelligently. The best scientists and professors in the world from Japan, Korea, China, and the US, they don't understand how it acts so intelligently because we found that in my body, I might need an antioxidant like effect. That's what hydrogen will trigger. But for you, you might need, Dan, an oxidant like effect. And hydrogen will actually trigger more of an oxidant or an oxidizing effect. So, how hydrogen knows to act differently in each person's body, we still don't understand that part. But we know it acts intelligently. And that's why it's become such a big point of topic because we want to understand how it acts so intelligently. Um, there was a second part to your question that I'm missing still.
Yes, so before we jump onto that, because I'll come back to that, that's why I have Born Superhuman. We're
Yes.
all unique and brilliant, and our systems know how to take what it's given and make the best.
Right.
So the better we give it, the better our system will adapt. And maybe we'll never find out why it's so intelligent, but certainly the body takes the resources and makes it into exactly what we need to the highest level of our capability. But the second part
Right.
of the question was, if we're fasting and creating the gut health that we need, and then hydrogen has the same effect of creating the changes in the gut. If you're fasting and taking hydrogen water at the same time to support your system through the fast, will you get more results or actions that help with that gut health?
Yes, absolutely. 100%. I actually have a friend, he did a 40-day water fast with sea moss, water, and hydrogen rich water. And he had amazing results. And so here's some other information that is going to coincide with what we're talking about is that hydrogen has a higher absorption on an empty stomach. So if we're taking hydrogen during a fast, well, one, we're already going to get the highest absorption because there's no food to disturb the absorption process. Two, the energy in the body is going to be liberated because it's not working on digestion. So if we have more liberated energy and you're taking in more hydrogen, which helps our energy, then you're going to be doing like a supercharged fasting process with you, include hydrogen at the same time. We already have seen if you add molecular hydrogen to breath work, you're hitting some of these really epic points during breath work at like half the rate of time. So we're seeing that hydrogen is just helping these processes happen faster. So the autophagy, the regeneratory effects from fasting, if you include hydrogen-rich water and or H2 inhalation at the same time, that's going to just super ignite that fasting process and help you stay healthier during it too, because it's going to help with that intracellular hydration.
Fantastic. No, I love it. So I will tell you that I do fast. I've only gone up to 48 hours. It's the longest that I've done, but I use hydrogen water during that process and certainly
Mm-hmm.
never struggled, which is pretty crazy. There's always that 18-hour.
Right.
It's a bit like a marathon, 18 miles in. You're like,
Good
okay,
stuff.
it's like the 18-hour for me. But once I'm past that, it just seems to go into a natural flow and the results and benefits.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go into this is when we met at the biohacking convention out in Miami. One of the things that really impressed me talking with you, which is why I wanted you on here, because it's so important to again educate. You looked at so many studies of how hydrogen is made and how it's put into the water or the tablets or the breathing of hydrogen itself. Go into the different studies and how not all hydrogen products are actually using the same system that's been shown to have the effect. And we're really buying something that is not giving us the effect we think we're paying for.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's unfortunately when it's a new market It's kind of like what I call the Wild Wild West. It's an unregulated market still. And since there is hundreds and thousands of studies out there, we found a lot of companies are saying, this is my product, and they're taking all the studies online, regardless of the flow rate, the saturation in the water, the process of injecting the hydrogen into the water, and they're just using all the studies online and saying, hey, my hydrogen product will do all this because that's what the studies show. But what the disconnect is that their products, and not all of them, but a majority of the products on the market don't match what the studies use. So you could have hydrogen rich water at a certain saturation level that has zero therapeutic benefit because all the studies that are shown on the website are at therapeutic levels of flow rate, of saturation in the water, of the proper pH, and certain characteristics of the hydrogen. But that doesn't mean that the product they're selling matches those exact studies and those parameters. And so that's where I love to educate people, say, hey, this is what the minimum therapeutic of H2 water shows. So you have saturation levels, you have quantity of water, you have the duration of how long the hydrogen stays in the water, how fast you have to drink the water, you have the pH of the water, you have the ORP levels of the water, you have all these things that 99% of these companies are not telling anyone. And so apples are not, they're not equivalent to apples to apples. You know, this is not one hydrogen rich water bottle doesn't necessarily mean it can do all the claims that it shows from molecular hydrogen on the studies, pubmed.gov. So,
So how does someone research and find out the validity of what they're being told?
like myself, many years ago, but I always recommend everyone to go to molecularhydrogeninstitute.com or .org. They own both of those aliases. That's founded by Dr. Tyler LeBaron. He's one of the world-renowned leading experts and researchers in molecular hydrogen therapy. That alone, you can find just a treasure trove of free information that's unbiased, it's scientifically backed, online for free for real and true information about hydrogen, what it is, what it isn't, what is hydrogen rich water, what is alkalinized water, what is alkalinizers, you know, all what is alkaline, acidic, pH. It breaks it all down. So I always encourage everyone to go there. I'm not affiliated with MHI anyway. I just endorse them, and myself and a bunch of our team members have our education through there. But that's the first step to go for unbiased, true science-backed information of pH, alkaline water, anything to do with hydrogen and water in general. And the next step I would do is, as we discussed prior, is get yourself a $30 to $40 meter from Amazon for H2 saturation in the water, pH of the water, and ORP level. And with those three different meters, you can actually tell what is what I'm now referring to as quality hydrogen and safe hydrogen and or bad hydrogen. And so we can dive into that later of what those are and what parameters would categorize those.
Yeah, I think actually, why don't we dive into that now? Because I think being on there, I'd love to talk about alkaline water versus neutral pH hydrogen water, and also what is good and bad hydrogen water, because I know the effects can certainly be everything from confusion to vomiting to nausea, and a myriad of other things that's the body reacting to protect itself. So we want to stay away from the negative effect that I know can come from products that are claiming something and you're paying for it on the coattails of someone that's actually knowing what they're talking about. So jump into that.
Yeah, that's such a good point, Dan, because one of my things, and again, me and Tyler LeBaron have talked about this, and we're very prominent about education and giving the truth to people. Because if a company sells a product, and then let's say it's a hydrogen rich water bottle, and you drink it and you get this kind of sick effect, you feel nauseated and you feel bad and you feel awful, then you say, you know what? Hydrogen isn't real. It doesn't work. And it actually hurt me. Okay. And in the same respect, you could do an inhalation machine and you see someone that we're using, you say, oh, yeah, yeah, I tried the inhalation. Oh, man, I felt horrible. I actually got really sick. It's bad news. Well, that happens to do with the quality of products and that all hydrogen isn't created equal. And so that's when we get into good hydrogen and bad hydrogen. So, example, I have a friend, he has a company. He said, hey, we have these new hydrogen rich water bottles. We want to sell them. What do you think? I go, well, let's run some tests. First thing we do, let's check for dissolved available hydrogen in the water with a simple meter, or you could use a chemical reaction called H2 blue drops.
Sure.
Okay, you get an H2 digital meter or H2 blue drops. You do your test, you find out if there is available dissolved hydrogen in the water above zero point 0.5 ppm per liter, because zero point 0.5 ppm per liter is the minimum therapeutic dosage that's shown to have benefits for a human body. Okay, zero point 0.5 per liter. So if we know those parameters, then we can continue to move forward. Okay, now let's say, okay, there is 1 ppm per liter of available hydrogen in the water. Okay, great. We hit the minimum therapeutic levels. Let's move forward. Let's check the pH of the water. pH, oh, pH is at 11.9. Okay, that's bad. And now comes with a whole nother education speech. But our stomach resides with or without food at a very acidic nature. And when I mean acidic, I mean anything below 7 on the pH scale. 0 to 7 is on the acidic profile. Anything above 7, from 7 to 14, is on the alkaline profile. Our body as a whole runs around 7.2, 7.3 on the alkaline side, just barely alkaline as a whole system. Different organs have different pHs, and our stomach has a very different pH. And for digestion, it needs to stay at a very low acidic state of around 2.5, which is hydrochloric acid. So when you drink a high alkaline liquid, that is going to hurt and damage and raise the pH of your stomach acid. That's not what we want to do. So that's what we would call a high alkaline water with hydrogen concentration is bad hydrogen or dirty H2. And that's my own reference, my names that I've created that I've seen over the years. But if you have a product that very slightly alters the pH to it's at a 7, 7.5, maybe up to 8, I will accept. And you have high hydrogen concentrations, this would be in the safe zone as good or healthy hydrogen. So that happens to do with hydrogen-rich water, the things to look out for, the things that no companies are talking about. Hydrogen water, maybe they state the H2 saturation that they claim. So that's one thing. And you might see that and you say, okay, this does 2 ppm, 3 ppm. Great. Next thing you need to ask is what's the pH? Right? So then if they say, oh, it's alkaline at a 9.5, that is something, in my opinion, I wouldn't recommend that, because extended usage of high alkaline water does harm our gut health, and our gut health is very important for our enzymes, our prebiotics, and our hormone production, digestion, and many other things. So you do need to ask that company, whatever company you're looking for, you're researching, you're going to buy, hey, it's cool, you have hydrogen. Does it release any harmful oxides like chlorine into the water, or harmful things through the process of injecting the H2 into the water? Are you getting H2 into the water as a byproduct by alkalinizing the water? Are you getting H2 as a gas form injecting into the water? These are things no companies are talking about that are very important. And there's some forms of injecting H2 into the water that is very stable, where you can drink hydrogen-rich water for 8 hours, right? And it'll have that hydrogen in the water. There's other forms that as soon as it's made into the water, you need to drink it right away. And if you wait 30 minutes, you lost all the health benefit. So there's a lot of different factors.
Yeah, it's much more complicated than the commercial advertising makes you think. Just get it and do it and you'll be fine.
Right.
As an athlete, if I'm out on a bike ride. It's 100 degrees out. I need to stay hydrated. I take my hydrogen water. I put it in my water bottle. I know as soon as I take it out of that hydrogen creating bottle, right, the generator, and put it into my water bowl, the chance of a lot of the hydrogen already being released on the pouring effect is going to happen. Is there any way for hydrogen to stay in a water bottle that's open while I'm biking, or even an athlete that has the water bottles constantly be open and shut in a soccer game or football or basketball?
So great question. And I've done extensive research to learn and understand this better. And I couldn't do it through reading articles. I had to do it through my own research. And what I found is that you are taking molecular hydrogen in a gas form and injecting it into water through a very small micron-sized diffusion rod. This specific application of putting hydrogen gas into water is the most stable form of injecting hydrogen into water. Where you could be on a bike ride and you have your bottle below the seat and you're biking away and you open it and you do a squirt and it goes back, that is the only way of adding hydrogen to the water that is the most stable, that you could actually have it probably close to 6 hours after the injection process. No other form of process puts hydrogen in the water that is that stable.
Fantastic. I mean, that's amazing to know because I always try and hydrate before I ride, and then
Mm-hmm.
I filtered water during the ride, not knowing whether there's the even potential to maintain the hydrogen. So let's talk a little bit about, I know you have tablets as well that you believe is a better form of hydration into the water, into the body. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so for those of you that watching are familiar with H2 tablets, almost every form of H2 tablet on the market is a water dissolved tablet, meaning you have an open glass of water, you drop a tablet, there's a chemical reaction with the water that releases hydrogen into the water. Takes about 3 minutes to break down. As soon as it's done, you have to drink that whole glass immediately to get those health benefits. I have a tablet that is actually orally digestible. And so why I feel that this is a much higher form of a rate of absorption for the hydrogen is because our stomach is like a closed container. So that same reaction that you have for a glass of water that is bubbling to the top and leaving out the top, well, with my tablet, you take it in, you swallow it down a swig of water, it goes into your stomach, reacts with hydrochloric acid, releasing high amounts of hydrogen. So there's a chemical reaction between magnesium oxide, citric acid, and hydrochloric acid that creates molecular hydrogen. Now, when this reaction occurs, all the hydrogen being bubbled to the top of our stomach acids are being captured in the stomach lining. It's not getting released like the top of the glass would. So that's why I think that my form of tablet has higher absorption. And what I've seen over my 10 years is that we have much faster benefits and results with hundreds and maybe even thousands of clients giving us their testimonials. And we've gotten testimonial feedback from everything from reversing lupus, completely reverse lupus, to greatly improving cancer and a lot of other things that we don't like to make health claims, but we will share the testimonials told to us. And so what's unique is that each tablet is individually wrapped in a blister pack like this. So we have a higher quality control with each of the tablets. And as I said, you just boom like this on an empty stomach, swig it down with some liquid, it breaks down to your stomach, and all the hydrogen released is being captured into our stomach lining. So I feel that we're getting a higher dosage of hydrogen than the water dissolved ones.
Crazy. I mean, for me, that's exciting, but when you put it in the water and it's being dissolved, you have to down it immediately. How long will that hydrogen continue to feed your body before it is fully absorbed? And now we're back into a regular hydrogen state.
After we dissolve the tablet and we were to drink it down, the hydrogen stays in our body for about 1 hour. And then after that, we do have a diminishing but a residual effects up to 14 days to help improve the expressions of our genes. gene expression. So that's the incredible thing about hydrogen. If you take it in through water or inhalation or however which way you look at it, it's in your body for about an hour, then it leaves, but you do have a diminishing residual effect up to 14 days, specifically with improving gene expression.
So your product, when you put it in the stomach, let's go into how long does that effect last? Because obviously it's not dissipating into the air while you're drinking it or while it's dissolving.
So that will break down like a tablet in water breaks down about 2 to 3 minutes. Our tablets break down in about 13 to 14 minutes. So it's a slower process of releasing the hydrogen, extending that moment, that period of high saturation levels a little bit longer. So we're not losing any by off gassing out of the top of the glass, right? And then the stomach is like a closed container like this. So any off gas is getting collected to the stomach lining, and that breakdown process is about 13 minutes. So it's a longer process of releasing hydrogen, and it's all being contained. So that is why I feel and I've seen we're getting much better and faster results with the orally dissolved tablets versus the water dissolved ones. And in the same regards, I've seen that there's some small children around 2, 3 years old with health conditions that, the water tablets are easier for them to take because the young children can't always swallow a tablet. So in those cases, like one of our best testimonials we received was with autism improvement. And so the woman, the mother, she took a tablet, she opened it, the blister pack, she actually mashed the tablet into a powder form and put it into a little shot of water for her 5-year-old son and took it. And that's how her son kept taking the hydrogen. And yeah, she's sent us a video testimonial of greatly improving some autistic symptoms.
This is one of the things that I love, Mateo, because with my own products, we can go and do scientific testing, but it doesn't mean to say, like you said earlier, the process of the actual product is following the scientific testing. And I'm a huge
Mm,
believer that testimonials, especially, I can even say that even deeper, unpaid testimonials for me are the greatest proof because
yeah.
people won't lie when they're not paid to say something. If it doesn't work, they'll return it. And that's why
Hmm.
you say you have testimonials. Those to me hold so much weight because it's real people going through real situations and having real results. So I love what you're doing.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Thank you. The best testimonials are the ones that people go into the contact form on our website, and then they just write us. They say, I have to let you guys know this machine is saving our lives. These tablets are amazing. Like they feel so moved by our products. They have to go and email us just to let us know. And that is the best, the most heartwarming things to receive.
Absolutely. And that's why I say I think testimonials, people don't lie in testimonials unless they're paid to say them. And then they might say what they want because they want the money. And we know the testimonials we get in certainly are just, general excitement of people because their life's changing.
Hmm.
Moving on. I know when I was at the biohacker convention, you had set up with the hydrogen going through the nose, and people were loving it. I think you had one of the busiest booths, if not the busiest booth there.
Hmm.
Explain to me what happens there.
Yeah, so we had set up with the molecular hydrogen via inhalation. And that is one of the fastest routes and forms to saturate the blood in a very quick way, very effective way. And that's typically our number one go-to. Someone were to ask us, hey, what's the best way to take hydrogen? We'd say inhalation. And through, because when you drink hydrogen-rich water, it's wonderful. There's the studies. But, this glass of water right here, for example, this is a pretty large glass, larger than 12 ounces. And if I were to drink this, I'd be pretty full after that, right? And so if this is hydrogen rich water and I drink this down, okay, no more. I'm super full. I can't have any more. But if you're sitting there breathing the hydrogen, you never get full and you're always getting in the hydrogen. So you're maintaining this peak saturation level in your blood continuously with the inhalation. And when you maintain a peak saturation level for extended periods of time, you're maximizing the potential and the effects of hydrogen.
So give me some of those effects, because I know people watching would be, okay, tell me if I did that, if I inhaled it, what is the effect and how long should I do it for at a time? And how long would the results last?
Sure. So hydrogen taken in any form, if it's hydrogen-rich water, if it's tablets, if it's a saline injection, if it's through inhalation or a hydrogen-rich bath, any form is going to get to all the cells eventually and do those main features that hydrogen does, which is anti-inflammatory and helping our mitochondria. However, what we learned is that the inhalation, where hydrogen gas actually touches, we're getting much faster results. So, example, if you have lung issues, any respiratory issues, we would say breathe, breathe, breathe molecular hydrogen because the gas is actually going to touch and interact directly with the lungs. If you have, you're focusing more on cells, muscle tissue, brain, and heart, we would say breathe, breathe, breathe. And if you have to choose between breathing the hydrogen or drinking the water, and you have a gut health issue, we would probably recommend drinking the water for gut health issue. If you have to choose between one of the two, if you have asthma and you have to choose between one of the two, breathing or hydrogen water, we're going to say breathe because that's going to affect with that respiratory area. And the breathing too, again, you don't get filled up. You can only drink so much water before you're full. You only want to take so many tablets. But with the breathing, you can do it for hours while you're sitting there on the TV and watch a 3-hour movie and get 3 hours of cellular regeneration, and you don't even feel it, right? And so that's where we specialize, and typically we're known as an inhalation type of therapy, because when we find that you're doing inhalation 5 days a week to 7 days a week, I mean, it's nothing short of a miracle what we see. And if you stack that with what we call the triple punch, you take a tablet a day, you're drinking hydrogen-rich water, and you're doing your daily inhalation. That is getting hydrogen at every nook and cranny in the body, directly affecting our gut health, our lungs, the brain, the heart, our cells, and you're staying saturated on a daily basis. We've never not seen it work. We've never not seen someone's athletic performance increase or their health condition not improve. We just haven't seen it.
So what happens if someone's taking it then and they've got this triple, attack, they go into the system and then they go off it for 3 weeks? What's the negative side of that?
So that's a great question, Dan, because, I wouldn't say that there's a negative side, but there is a drop-off point and typically a 7 to 14 day window of rebalancing your body. So if you're hitting hydrogen 30 days every day at every which angle, your body starts to get accustomed to saying, hey, wow, I love this. I'm getting used to all this extra help and this extra support. And then after 30 days, boom, cold turkey, no hydrogen. Your body's immune system, and this was where its baseline was at before hydrogen, before you started hydrogen, was here. After, you might drop a little bit in a 7 day, could be up to 14 days. It could lessen a little bit. And then once it rebalances, it would go back up to its new baseline.
Okay.
So immune system before hydrogen, immune system during hydrogen, immune system right after hydrogen, and then you stop taking hydrogen, it resurfaces at your new low level, which is still higher than where you were before. So we have seen a bit of a drop off, but only 7 days, sometimes up to 14 before your body rebalances at its new low baseline.
And how long after that, if you didn't take it for how long, would it drop back to its original baseline?
Now, there's many different factors of your lifestyle habits, but we're looking at like 6 months, give or take 6 months. For the average person that continues to eat the processed foods and the seed oils and drinks on the weekends, right, you're going to lose your higher baseline, go back to your old baseline pretty quick. We'd say probably within 3 months to 6 months. But if you're maintaining, you're working out 3 to 5 days a week, eating really clean and staying on your biohacking detox protocols, you're going to maintain that for 6 months, maybe even up to a year, just through that 30-day cycle of hydrogen. Um, the best analogy that I found is that hydrogen is just like a mechanic in the car, right? You don't need to see the mechanic every day, right? And when you see the mechanic, right, you put in the car there for 2 to 3 hours, the mechanic cleans filters, it changes the oil, it tightens some bolts, and then you run your car and the car runs pretty good for the next 6 months, 8 months, and then you start to feel some tweaks go again. Hydrogen's just like a mechanic. It comes into your body like the car. It works for an hour, 2 hours, a few hours, and then it leaves. And then your car, your body runs better. But if you have your vehicle, like Dan, your vehicle, you got a freaking Ferrari, right? You're a super athlete. And so a Ferrari, that thing needs to see the shop pretty often, right? And for those of us that want to bring our car up to that quality premium level of athleticism and vitality and energy and protection, we need to see the mechanic more and more and more. So that's the best way we can describe it is, hey, do you need to see the mechanic every day? No, my car can still get from point A to point B. But if it wants to see the mechanic every day, well, dang, I know I'm not going to have a lick of a problem in the future. It can run for another 10,000 miles, run hard, and probably not break down and fail in any points of the system. That's how hydrogen is. And so I look at my body as a car, and it used to be Kia something, and then it was like the new Chevy, then it was a BMW. Now I'm running at like a Lamborghini Rolls Royce because I'm putting premium fuel into the car. I'm seeing the mechanic every night. I get home, I breathe, and then all the diagnostics I'm doing, like we can do with the car, shows that everything's running tight and running really good. So that's, I never want to say, hey, you need to live with hydrogen forever. You don't have to. But if you have the option, you probably should because you can never overdose on it and it has the highest rated safety profile. So it's just showing regenerative effects without harming the body.
Yeah, I think that's huge because again, I go back to the brain, the power of the brain, and feeding it so it can go to work and do what it's made. The whole purpose of the brain, as we know, is to keep us safe and keep us alive. And the better
Mm-hmm.
that we give it to do that, the better it can function. And as you said, putting the hydrogen in, getting the absorption into a cellular level, allowing it to now communicate better, take out the inflammation from the brain and the body, improve the gut health. Now everything functions better. It's not just going out and polishing the outside of the car and the engine's falling
Yeah.
apart. The outside actually becomes less important, but the inside, when
Mm-hmm.
the outside perform better. Yeah, I love that analogy.
Absolutely.
Great stuff. So who shouldn't take hydrogen water or hydrogen itself?
So as of to date, the research, public research shows that there is no harm, no risk. But through my personal in the field, living and breathing the hydrogen and working with hundreds and maybe thousands of different clients now, the only thing that we found someone that shouldn't is potentially someone with SIBO. SIBO, SIBO, is a condition where someone's gut health is producing more hydrogen than they need. Now, there's different forms of hydrogen. There's monohydrogen, there's dihydrogen, H2O2, right? Hydrogen peroxide. There's many different forms of hydrogen. And the specific form that we use is molecular hydrogen, also known as dihydrogen or H2. Now, SIBO is not that form of hydrogen. So that is an area where I'd say if there's anyone that we might need to add some precaution to the wind is someone with a SIBO case because there's just not enough data on there. We definitely don't want to create a worse problem for them. So anyone with that type of issue, we would say, hey, pump the brakes before you try it. do your own research, and then monitor how you feel after it. Because I just don't have enough data there.
Yeah.
And so that's the one field we say proceed with caution. Pregnancy, being that it's such a delicate matter, I can't publicly recommend it for pregnancy. But what I will say is that there's many studies showing that it improves pregnancy in many different conditions of pregnancy. Um, and then again, we could also warn anyone with the type of a seizure attack. There's studies showing it can improve those symptoms of seizures, but proceed with caution because an attack can come at any moment. And God forbid that attack happens while they're breathing the hydrogen, and then the culprit is hydrogen when it was just they were due for an attack anyway, right? So there's anything like a seizure attack, an asthma attack. Now I could send you 5 studies showing it improves asthma, right? But any type of an attack symptom, we'd say proceed with caution. You go at your own risk, but I'll share with you these studies saying it should help, but we can't,
Sure.
professionally recommend that as a protocol.
No, everybody is unique, but
Yeah.
I've seen so many success stories in so many different products, but because of legal ramifications, we can't encourage
Yeah.
to try it. But I prefer to take the road personally of I would try it because I'm not going to get better doing the same thing that I'm doing anyway. So
Hmm.
what's the risk if there's no direct correlation? Let's just put it that way. It might be the best way to say it.
Right.
So obviously this is great for athletes, recovery from hard workouts. What about, have there ever been a study of hyperbaric chambers with hydrogen? Or I used to, when I was racing triathlons, Ironman, I used to sleep in altitude chambers. So I'd go up to 21,000 feet, never in a chamber because I'll fall asleep because of the oxygen deprivation trying to build the red blood cells. But
Right.
I could sleep at 9,500 feet, and I knew I was getting a maximum generation at that point. So when I woke up, I could train at sea level and sleep at altitude.
Uh-huh.
What about hydrogen? Ever approached that?
Yeah, that's a growing field of interest. We've chatted with different hyperbaric oxygen manufacturers and companies, and then clinics too. And so the data in the research is very limited right now. Right, we've seen it separately what hydrogen does. It's wonderful. We've seen separately what hyperbaric oxygen does. It's wonderful. The two together, I haven't seen the data on them combined together. I know that when there's not many hyperbaric hydrogen chambers out there because high amounts of hydrogen could be very combustible,
Right.
right? And oxygen's combustible, hydrogen's combustible, oxyhydrogen's even more combustible. So I think the research is lacking due to the risk when we start combining those. But what I have talked to different clinicians and medical doctors is to do a staggering effect of protocols of a molecular hydrogen. Let's say you do an H2 therapy at 10 a.m. Well, by 2 p.m., you can do the hyperbaric oxygen. So it's going to reduce inflammation, increase hydration, and almost prep the body for hyperbaric oxygen to have an even greater, faster effect with the hyperbaric oxygen. And then those beneficial effects from hyperbaric oxygen in return, hyperoxygenating the body's running better. So then it could uptake the hydrogen better. So that's what we talked about mostly right now is doing a staggering effect before and or after with the hyperbaric oxygen.
Now, again, I already came into this knowing that I love the effect of hydrogen. I've noticed when I race, the difference if I have been, especially before the race, if I haven't had hydrogen water for a short time, and I charge it, I down it, and then I'm on the bike going, but then I don't for the rest of the
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm.
I know about your tablets, that's a whole different level. But let's now compare hydrogen water to structured water that I know is an H3O2, right? When they start to look at the different benefits in there. Is that something that could be combined? For example, if you took a structured water with your tablet, now we're really increasing the amount of hydrogen in there. Is there a benefit to that, or what is the difference for people to understand what's going on there?
So I haven't been able to scientifically validate which order would come first. Should we infuse the hydrogen into the water first and then structure it? Or should we structure our water first and then inject the hydrogen into it? So I haven't found out which order would be more beneficial. And due to basically the testing parameters, you need a really accurate type of diagnostic technology to be able to see what could improve more. But I do love the idea of, and in my idea is that we would add the hydrogen after the water is structured, would be my idea. Now, I don't know if it's going to, hydrogen-rich water doesn't change the chemical formula. It's not like H, 2 and now it's H3 or H4. It doesn't do that. So structuring the water and then injecting it with hydrogen would be my idea of how it could be the most beneficial for us. But again, the data is lacking, and so we find a different type of diagnostic technology to understand the properties of water better. I'm not sure the order, but I know those together would probably be an amazing synergistic combination.
Yeah, it's interesting. Just for those that are watching that don't understand structured water, it's basically where they take it, they spin the water to encourage more oxygen to go in as well. Again, going back to your whole point of dead water or getting it living and going, is there anything that you could highlight more about structured water in the process there?
Well, now that I think about it again, there's a book called Dancing with Water, and that brings the scientific nature and the spiritual nature of water together. And it has all the greatest researchers in the world and in the history in this book, Dancing with Water. And they actually said, now that I'm recalling, if you structure the water first, it will actually hold more hydrogen. So if the water molecules are organized and structured, then it would hold more hydrogen. So I just recalled that. So yes, you would want to structure it first, like you said, through vortexing the water, and then even a way to vortex it even more efficiently is you put a south anode and a north anode on each side of the bottom of the vortex. And then so as the water goes down, it hits the south and north node, the magnets, and then that would really structure the water. Similarly, what we find in nature, when water hits a rock, it branches off and starts a vortex on its own. And then there is natural magnetic right materials in a river or a stream that these different magnets hitting the water as its vortex really structures the water. So that would be the best.
Amazing. When you start breaking it
Yeah.
down, and that's why I love getting onto the talk, doing this with you, because we
Yeah.
explore. Now, most people wouldn't understand, and I'll be honest, I don't fully understand everything you're talking about, but I know that in the body we have a natural filtration system. The
Yes.
danger is, again, we get into the fluoride in the water, we get into the microplastics, we get into the metals, all the other stuff that's in there. Our body is built to filter that out. However, with the change in the atmosphere, in the air, in the pollutants, in the amount that the body now is having to fight, even in our own food, because of the changes of the chemicals in there, how important is it to protect and pre-filter the water we're absorbing? Because again, that is our number one source of energy to a cellular level outside of oxygen itself. And the importance that I put in to make sure that our blood flow is good, make sure that, if we don't hydrate, our blood begins to congeal. It makes it harder to pump around. We're not getting the oxygen, the red blood cells around our body. But the filtration system in the body itself, how important is that? Because as you're talking about the river, I'm thinking, oh yeah, I used to dive in those rivers back in England, and it's freezing cold and the water's swirling, and you could drink that water in those days as well. What's happened between our body and our water and the filtration system naturally?
Well, I want to state something that's going to correlate to this topic is that what is called DDW, which is deuterium depleted water. Okay, this deuterium depleted water is basically gone through a multi-million-dollar filtration process, and that actually removes so much um, particles in the water that it removes deuterium. Okay. And so when you're talking about filters and the importance of clean water in our body, there are actually scientific and medical studies showing that just drinking deuterium depleted water is actually helping reverse chronic illnesses. So just by having a super, super clean water, now deuterium depleted water is just another level of filtration. Literally, very huge, tall, 50-foot towers, multi-million-dollar facility to create deuterium depleted water. But that is the importance of having clean water, how much it can help our bodies. And so, yes, our filters in our body, which is our lymph system, is super important to stay clean. And just like if those lymphs aren't clean, they're collecting bacteria. And so now this filter was helping us filter out bad to going to this side, is now getting sludged up with germs and bacteria. And now the water's still hitting and going, but it's now compromised. So now this is just a collection point of bacteria and germs and viruses. Now it is now, instead of filtering out, it is now contaminating all of our blood through this filter. So the filter, once acting good to stop the things from getting in the blood, is now tainting all of our blood with all the nasty things that the filter collected. So having clean drinking water and a healthy lymphatic system and filters for our body are absolutely necessary of the systems that run our body and can make or break a health regimen. You could be doing X, Y, and Z to be helping your health, but if your filters are dirty or your water is dirty, well, you're not going to make great progress. So you're buying the organic food, you're eating healthy, you're cooking at home, but little do you know that you absorb more water through your skin than you do through drinking. So maybe you have the Brita filter system, but your shower doesn't have that Brita filter system. Mm. So this specific protozoa, very harmful, nasty bacteria that a lot of people have that wreaks havoc on our body, it keeps entering the body through our showers and through that source of water. So the heavy metals, the protozoa, the microplastics, they're not getting in through our food source, they're not getting in through our drinking water, but every time I go to shower, and I shower twice a day, my skin is absorbing 1 liter to 1.5 liters to even more through the shower. So that bacteria keeps entering through the body. So clean water is important.
That gives me a question then. Showering hot opens the pores. Is there a difference between cold showers and hot showers as the amount of potential absorption of contaminants through our skin? So is it better to shower cold than hot, or it doesn't make any difference with the absorption of the water?
Well, when we're talking about absorption, hot water does, right, heat expands. So the heat's going to help open up the pores for better absorption. And the cold water contracts. And we know very cold water releases cold proteins. So there's different benefits from cold water versus hot water. But when we're talking about absorption through the pores, cold water is going to restrict it. Hot water is going to increase that. So if you're taking a hot shower with hot, dirty water, I mean, you're just opening up your pores and saying, let's take in all these germs, heavy metals, toxins.
Crazy. I mean, again, something that's so simple. We love a cold shower. We normally are out within 5 minutes. A hot shower, you can stay in for half an hour. So we're getting even more absorption. So then that brings me to another question. Hydrogen water helps us absorb the liquid into our cells to get better energy and productivity from a cellular level and to all our organs. if we're drinking dirty hydrated water, right, with hydrogen in it, is that going to make it worse for us than it would be drinking non-hydrogen water because now we won't be absorbing as much?
That's a really good question. From my studies, what I've seen is that hydrogen acts so intelligently that even if you had hydrogen-rich water with the dirty water, it still would act intelligently enough not to attach itself to harmful germs and bring them into your cell walls. I haven't seen that. It's a really great question, though.
I guess the other thing is if hydrogen water is helping our whole system, then our filtration system should be better and cleaned out. So maybe doing that helps. And again, I'm just making a supposition off of thinking this through, but
Right.
the better our system works, the more we can clear out what shouldn't be there. And like you say, the lymph system protecting us would allow the hydration to go through and minimize the contaminants. Pretty
And
fascinating. Interesting. If you find out anything about that, definitely let us know as well.
yeah, I will. I will. A lot of stuff is theoretical. These studies take, anywhere from 3 years to 10 years to come out. But boots on the ground, just knocking out research, getting data from our clients, our doctors, and everything they're learning. We are compiling a huge database of great information that I haven't found anywhere else so far.
Brilliant. So I've got some myths I want you to answer.
Okay.
I'm going to go through a little list here of myths that I wrote down doing research online for what most people think. And you can give me, a 30-second answer or go longer if you want. Myth number one, hydrogen water is a fad.
I don't believe so. I think this is going to be around for the years to come. Um, if you could call alkaline water a fad, which you would say that's a long, stubborn fad, if it is a fad. But I think that hydrogen-rich water, if you call 5 years a fad, 10 years a fad, I don't think it's going to be a fad. I think it's be around a lot longer than that.
Hydrogen water has no scientific base.
Oh, false. Fallacy.
Tell me why.
Because there's about actually 3,000 studies out right now. About 1,000 of them are clinical, science-backed clinical studies, and about, I'd say, 60% of those 1,000 are going to be with hydrogen-rich water. So the data is there. I mean, that's why that type of argument is an easy one to squash, because I say, look, don't kill the messenger. Here's pop, 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 pop. Here's 50 studies with hydrogen-rich water. And then, that's squash. That's an easy one.
All hydrogen water generators are equal.
Okay, that's a big fallacy. Going to be false, because all hydrogen is not created equally due to the materials used to create hydrogen as a reaction. If there's third-party tests to show that there's other harmful oxides being released, I know there's some tablets out there that did a third-party test that showed lead was a prominent oxide being released in the water-dissolved tablets, as well as gas analysis through hydrogen inhalation. The proton exchange membrane, that is a form of electrolysis, which is a cathode and anode. Water, H2O, goes into these cathode and anodes. Electricity is brought to the cathode and anode. You have a positive and a negative. When electricity is brought to there, it separates H2 from O, right? H2 and O being gases, now it reverts back into gas form. Now, what materials are on these electrodes, the cathode and anode, is where you could get hydrogen with chlorine, right? Or you could just get pure hydrogen. So it is not created equally. The hydrogen water is not created equally. It could have harmful oxides, as well as the gas could have harmful oxides. If you're using a device that doesn't have a gas analysis, or a gas analysis after 500 hours on the machine, then how do you know? And so we know because we do the tests, we spent thousands and thousands of dollars on laboratory equipment to do our own tests in-house as well as third-party validation as well.
Next one I love. Hydrogen water is unsafe to drink.
Okay, false. I've never seen any studies out there showing that hydrogen water could harm you. If there is harmful or negative testimonials out there, then we need to retract back to what device they used. And was it actually from the hydrogen in the water, or was it from a super high alkalinity in the water? Or was it from an oxide being released to the water like chlorine or ozone? So ozone is another one that's a common one between chlorine and ozone released into water. So that's a thing you could test for at home. Hey, I have a hydrogen water bottle or a hydrogen water pitcher or machine. Let me make some and put some chemical reaction agents of chlorine bromide into water to test for chlorine in the water. And if you put 5 drops and you've seen the water turn a little orange or yellow, hey, my machine's making chlorine significant that the machine is releasing harmful oxides. So that harmful hydrogen-rich water, was it really harmful from the hydrogen in the water, or was it from the other factors that were less discussed, like the pH and the oxides, or the source of the water?
That's great. Last one. Hydrogen water is expensive and inaccessible.
No, that's not true either. Now, there's different qualities, right? There's different qualities of hydrogen-rich water. You could get hydrogen-rich water that's the good hydrogen-rich water or the dirty hydrogen-rich water that's easily accessible. They have quality tablets out there as little as $50 to $40 per bottle that could get you great hydrogen. And I think $40 to $50 for a month's supply is, I think that's pretty reasonably priced. So that's accessible, it's affordable. And I mean, for example, the tablets I have are $50, which would be on the more high end for a tablet. But what we've seen after 30 days of the tablets is worth the weight in gold. And, people say, tablets work so well. Why do I need a machine? You don't. I don't sell anything. I express my passion, I educate, and I happen to offer a product and service.
And that's one of the things that I have on all my podcasts is I don't want people to sell. It's about education, talk about. And I'm going to let people know about your products. I've done the research. I've done a ton of meetings with multiple different companies. And I know that you far exceed all the requirements of any authority within the hydration world. Sorry, I should say within the hydrogen world. So that, again, you're not just providing the minimum, you're going far beyond, because, again, I know that your passion is helping people recover any illnesses they have to the best of the natural ability, the way the body's built, or increasing their ability if they're not suffering from anything and maintaining it. I know we talk about the immune system and making sure everything's functioning. Let me ask you this. Are there products out there that you've tested that you categorically, and I'm not asking for names, but you categorically can know are creating more problems than they're helping through hydrogen?
Yes. Yeah, we found them. Just many, many years in the field. 6 years ago, I was a frustrated consumer. I was buying different machines, different products, trying to get someone on a phone call, trying to learn. And I'm just like, this is weird. Every company I've bought, every company I've tried, they're dodging this one question. They just won't hop on a call. And I just got really disappointed in the molecular hydrogen field as a whole. From companies in Japan, where it kind of originated from, you think it never happened over there. It's happening over there. The tablets, we found lead in the tablets. We found certain machines to leach harmful chemicals. And then there's just telltale signs that I can tell. And now being a professional and expert in the field, I found the telltale signs that, hey, if this device only has a 2-hour runtime, Well, that let me know that after 2 hours, they're probably overheating and oxidizing the materials. So there's little telltale signs I could tell that this is a quality product or this is harmful or they're using cheaper materials, or they're just lacking sensors. Um, and anyone that knows me that's ever hopped on a phone call with me, I will tell them that just a straight shooter. Hey, what about this machine? What about this machine? What about this? I'll say this is good. This is not. This is bad. This is great. Make it go whatever company you want. Right? We have big contracts. We have many clients, so we have stability. I'm not fighting for sales, so I just send people where they need to go. What's going to resonate with the best with them. I don't want any headache customers, so I'll send them to another brand and say, hey, I think this brand might suit you better, with what you're looking for in your price budget. But I will tell them, these things are a red flag to me. If you can't get anyone a phone call, red flag. Short warranty, red flag. Short runtime, red flag. You know, 1 to 2 red flags should have you pump the brakes enough.
I work with different groups, Parkinson's, MS, a number of different, my own traumatic brain injury where part of my brain died. I had to learn to talk again, learn to function. I was paralyzed at another time in my life. And doctors have said,
Wow.
in a wheelchair, you're going to be disabled the rest of your life. Tell me about the effect that hydrogen water can have on MS, Parkinson's, neurological diseases, and what have you experienced with anyone in those realms?
There's different root causes for some of those chronic illnesses listed. And in general, what we've seen at certain saturation levels of hydrogen-rich water, we see really good response. And we've also seen no response. So that's when we get into it's not apples to apples. You got to really figure out at what saturation levels does that study show improvements in Parkinson's. And a lot of times it's not what's easily found. And so in general, what we've learned is that the higher the saturation levels, in general, not always, but in general, and the higher flow rates in general, not always, seem to give better results. And so, um, you know, Dan, our product that we've been talking about releasing, we are hitting the highest saturation levels. So we know that any hydrogen-rich water claim study that we want to use, our therapeutic level is at least meets that and or most likely exceeds it by twofold, sometimes fivefold.
So what's the minimum ppm then that you would have to reach that level? And I'm talking about the bottom level, because I know people will go out there and they'll say they got, they start doing ppb to confuse
Right.
consumer that they think they're getting ppms. They're not looking at the last letter and thinking they're getting more hydrogen in their water than they actually are. So another,
Yeah.
what is the minimum should be ppb? Sorry,
Okay.
ppm.
Okay. Right. So ppm, parts per billion, parts per million. Um, we use them interchangeably, but for marketing, you'll see companies use billion because it sounds bigger, and you say it's 1,000 parts per billion, higher than any other bottle on the market, right? Well, um, the minimum, the data shows the minimum level is zero point 0.5 parts per million ppm per liter of water. Now, all those things I said are very, very important because you could have, okay, my bottle does 0.5 ppm of H2 in the water. Great, I'm hitting the therapeutic levels per liter. You don't get those therapeutic effects if you drink less than a liter of 0.5 ppm. So these are those things that no company out there is talking about. And so we'd have to do a decent amount of math to figure out, okay, so I need to drink less than a liter. So if I'm drinking less than a liter, then what does my saturation levels need to be to hit the minimum therapeutic dosage? Right. And so then you get into, well, now you need at least 1.5 to 1.7 parts per million if you're drinking around a 12-ounce glass of water to hit those minimum levels. Now, minimum levels are good, but when we want like maximum levels, right? Minimum therapeutic or maximum therapeutic, right? So and that's what Axiom does. We always go, we find our minimum baseline of what's the studies claim is this is a minimum level, and then we'll double it, triple it, quadruple it. And so we know that we're not even going to ever be close to the minimum levels. We're always going to at least double your minimum level of therapeutic dosages.
Which I believe is critical because people don't want to come to you to maintain the or slow the decline. There's
Mm-hmm.
something in the, I don't like saying biohacking because it has a negative connotation with it as well. I think it's really about maximizing our natural abilities. And also, there's a lot of people that I believe in the biohacking world. I think a lot of people are trying to dismiss it because it's not good for big pharma to hear this. They're trying to put a negative connotation. But for people that are watching, this is really about taking your own natural ability and giving it the right resources to maximize its ability to not just slow the decline, but to reverse the decline and actually increase your ability to perform. So, Mateo, with your background in strength and conditioning supplements, looking at the whole health gamut, both for yourself as an athlete and also for other people you're working with, what got you to actually go and start your own company, Axiom H2, which I'm sure there are other companies out there. What drove you to have to go and decide I need to improve what's going on?
Well, it's a great story, but it was really a standpoint of frustration. My background was in hospitality management. And so I had a passion for customer service, and I used to run restaurants and bars, and was very, very with big international companies, all about customer service. And so after I had a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, I had an ozone machine, I discovered oxyhydrogen, I got an oxyhydrogen machine. And then where it all started was after about 6 months of owning my first hydrogen machine, it started giving me issues. It started leaking, having problems. So I had to send it back. I had the process of sending it back wasn't great. I had to pay like 150, almost $200. I remember. I'm like, man, they should be paying that, but it is what it is. I sent it back. They had the machine for about almost 2 months before they sent me another one. So I was out for a while, and that was a kind of a buzzkill. I'm like, man, this is not a great experience, but what do I know? I'm new to the hydrogen world. Got the machine back. Sure enough, another maybe 5 months later, it had an issue again. And then that's when I said, okay, the warranty, they don't want to help the warranty anymore. So I said, let me look at some other companies. I started searching around. I found another company, joined that brand, seemed to be a half decent brand. But then I learned that I started doing all the customer service for the company. So I got real time feedback over about a year's time of all the customers, what the issues were, what they liked, what they didn't like. I was doing video calls, all the setups with everyone. So I got a really good feel of what was lacking. And I actually started to build the machines with that previous company too. So I'm like, okay, now I understand the engineering aspects. I understand the sensors. I understand the internal workings. I've done all the marketing. I've done all the customer service. And when I would tell the owners of actually past two companies, I said, hey, I keep getting this feedback. This is really what we need to be doing to provide a safer product. And safety was my main concern with the previous companies. And what I realized is that the owners, they just didn't care. And I'm not going to say any companies' names because I don't need to bash any companies, but I was really, really disappointed when I learned that, they really just kept it. They cared about selling a product, dusting their hands. There's an issue. They say, well, they can read the manual. If they can't read the manual, then they don't need to be helped. And I'm like, man, this is just not the right way to do this. And my own reputation, I'm like, in my passion for customer service, I couldn't be a part of companies like that didn't really care about the customer's experience or supporting them after the sale. And then so I got turned off. I left that company, and I was at a point and I researched all the quote unquote best companies. This is like 6 years ago at the time. And I'm like, couldn't find one company that could check a few of the boxes. That is a 5 minute phone call with me, show someone that's real, that knows what they're talking about, hop on a phone call with me, a 30-second video of a digital meter showing H2 saturation and pH saturation. The most simple, inexpensive things I required as a upcoming buyer, no company would provide for me. Not one, not one. And I'm like, man, why can't they do this? It's not going to cost them any money, any time. And I said, these companies just don't care. This is a front. This is a fake. And so I talked to my brother, and I remember many years ago, and I'm like, dude, Jay, what am I gonna do, man? I thought hydrogen was my thing, and I can't find another company to actually represent a quality product with good customer service and testing and sensors and everything I want. He goes, if you don't find one, you can't find one, you make it. I go, I'm not an engineer and all this stuff. He goes, you're not, but he goes, you're certified at the MHI. You're super passionate. You know more than almost anyone in the field, and you've been building machines for the past year. Like you could actually do your own company with all the sensors you wanted, with the proper customer service, with the materials you wanted, with the diagnostics you wanted, with everything. And I said, really? He goes, yeah, find yourself a medical manufacturer, a team of engineers, do it. I'll help you. You get one, start with a prototype, and we'll take it from there. And now here we are, $0 to date in marketing or advertisement. And now we have one of the fastest growing, best quality brands of hydrogen machines on the market through pure organic growth and just word of mouth. And people saying, hey, you should try Axiom. I just used it. It works great. Or I just talked to this guy. He knows a lot. Maybe Axiom could help you out. And little by little, organic growth, we're here. And so that's how I wanted it to come about, was people recommending the brand, doctors recommending the brand. The original blueprint for the company was to work as B2B, business to business. And that's what we did, business to business, working directly with doctors and clinics. And then a lot of their patients said, they really want to get the machine for the house. Could you offer at home model? So after our first year, we released the at home model. Then we released the tablets. Then we released a commercial unit for pro athletes. And, every product we have released works. That's our most important thing, is safety and effectiveness. People say, Mateo, that team's been around for a few years now. Why don't you guys offer a water bottle? I say, because I only want to offer what I know is going to be the best and what's going to actually work. Because God forbid we release a product to the public and it doesn't work, then what's the reputation of hydrogen? It's going to hurt the whole industry. And it could have just been my brand that hurt the whole industry. So it's really important that all the companies in the field offer what is at least a minimum therapeutic dosage, and they do the test to make sure they're not harming anyone. Because when you're doing something as intimate as inhaling a gas that's going into the lungs directly in the bloodstream, or you're drinking a liquid that's entering your body every day, multiple times a day, you need to make sure that these products aren't harming you, not releasing anything harmful. And so I created Axiom through athletic performance, but out of frustration. I said, I can't find a company that has all the sensors I want. No company will hop on a phone call with me. No company has extended warranty. There's not a brand out there that I would buy again. No matter what the cost is, there wasn't one. So out of a need and a necessity to protect the people in the market, I literally said, you know what? I'm going to take on the role of education, offering a proper product with all the testing, the proper materials. It's an expensive price point, but for a reason, and with the true heart behind it. And so I still take phone calls from people and they say, oh my, this is Mateo. You're the founder, and you're taking the phone calls. I say, when I can, I do. They say, wow, that speaks volumes about your brand. And so, we're a family-based company. We try to keep the family, small vibe, even though we're growing really big and we have huge contracts with major gyms and big things we'll be able to share more publicly soon. So we're trying to keep the small company vibe, as we grow big, and because that's what got us to this point, is keeping our morals and values.
That's fantastic. And I think when you take the phone calls, I do the same when I speak to my customers and the
Yeah.
reaction. I can't believe this is really, or they recognize the voice because they've seen the videos or the training.
Yeah,
But the bottom line is because we care. And that's what
that's right.
I want to. It's because we care. We're not chasing money. We're
No.
helping results. And it's about how can we improve quality of life through education and finding the right people that are willing to invest their time and their resources because they truly care too. And when people
Yeah.
come together, now you have a win, which is a better quality of life.
Absolutely. And it might be the slower route to the mountaintop, but it's going to be the one that stays. As soon as you grow really fast, you could crash really fast,
Yeah,
right? And us getting to the mountain at a slow and organic pace, with our values and the moral codes and ethical codes. Now, we know now Axiom's here to stay. And we didn't get involved in the water bottle market for so many years because there wasn't the technology and the quality that we would endorse. And now, after years of testing and working at actually a dialysis technology, we've come across something that we would actually endorse as Axiom H2 to say this is quality, guaranteed results, and guaranteed best on the market.
fantastic. So are you going to bring out, I know you've got the commercial grade, you've got the in-home grade, you've got the best tablets on the market. Are you going to be bringing out a personal water bottle as well for people to take, or is that something that you feel isn't viable with the quality you demand?
Now it is. We've had the emails and the DMs inquiries for a few years now. Hey, why don't you guys offer a water bottle? What one would you recommend? And they say, we just only can offer what's going to move the meter. Like we'll never like there's a huge market share. I could have been selling the water bottles 3 years ago and just made a ton of money, but it wasn't a quality brand, and it wasn't, 3 years ago, almost all the water bottles out there was getting H2 as a byproduct by alkalinizing the water, which is not what we want. Now, uh, there's been a lot more research and money put into molecular hydrogen. Now we have a new technology that creates what's called super saturated levels of HRW, hydrogen rich water. So when you get above anywhere around 5 ppm and higher, you're getting into what's called super saturated levels. And so we are going to be releasing a product about 60 days. It could be 90, but 60 to 90 days. We're going to launch it publicly, and it will be a one of a kind in the world to hit not only the saturation levels, but to have some other very proprietary safety features with the bottle that is just going to, blow people away. And it's like, you don't know what you don't know until you know it. And so until we release it, you won't know and you won't understand why it's the best. And then once we explain the features and you were to look at it side by side another bottle, you'll say, wow, so much thought and effort was put behind this bottle. And we have a few prototypes out now, testing it with our medical doctors, and the feedback has been nothing short of astounding, like astounding. And that's why we're like, wow, this is going to be a game changer. We're even looking at maybe getting this one FDA cleared and or approved as a medical device, because it's just on just a whole nother level.
Congratulations. I'm not surprised because I know everything you do has to be quality or you're not doing it. Bottom line.
Right.
Let me ask you this then, because this just came into my head. Do you recommend minerals and electrolytes into the water as well? Is there a certain level? Is there something that you like? Because I know that we can also flush our system by drinking too much clean water without having the sodium and potassium and things that we need to function. What do you say about that?
Yeah, I'd say that there's a couple different products out there that has kind of ionic mineral tinctures that seem to be a good mineral balance to add to your water. But it's always good to know where you're starting from. So instead of just willy-nilly, hey, I want to just add more electrolytes to my water. Well, you might want to start with a baseline to say, first off, where is my daily drinking water coming from, and what is, let's call it a health score of this water. So the water that I'm going to be drinking every day, the source of that water, where is that for one? Two, it'd be really nice to know for someone to say, hey, am I actually lacking any minerals and vitamins? And if I am across the board, then this adding an ionic tincture or a mineral composition to my water could make sense. But if you have a very high level of minerals and vitamins and maybe too high, well, then you could learn real quick, hey, I don't even need to be messing with adding minerals to my water because I'm actually a little too high, right? So I used to shoot in the dark in the past. Now I work with a bioresonance type of technology that gives us super accurate information on minerals, vitamins, and where we're lacking, where we're heavy. And so now I use that as a baseline to see, hey, I used to just take zinc and vitamin C every day. Then I learned, hey, my zinc levels are too high. So I stopped just taking zinc. I know there's benefits to zinc, but if I don't need zinc, why am I taking zinc every day?
Sure.
So that's the first thing I recommend is try to get a baseline of where your minerals are at now. And if they're low, most likely they're low for the average American, then it would make sense to get a ionic mixture of minerals added to your water.
Great advice, information. What would you like anybody watching this to know as your takeaway?
Yeah, I'd say, well, first, thank you so much, Dan. This has been probably the fastest 2 hours I've had in the past few weeks. I mean, I can't believe that was 2 hours right there. How just interesting and fun this dialogue was. But I guess if there's one takeaway, I would say is that our health is our responsibility. And we have to take ownership and responsibility and not make excuses. And I went through a transformation. And I realized, wow, I'm really good at making excuses of why I'm not here, why my health is not there. And when I just made a hard line in the sand and I said, I will never make excuses again. And this is all my responsibility. If I fail, it's because I failed, not because of my team or because of product or because X, Y, and Z. It's always me. And so that is the one takeaway is that our health, our success, our happiness, our joy, our anything in life is our responsibility. And yes, your team is going to help make or break that of what your will is. Your will can be strong, but if your environment's really poor, it's going to slowly break you down, right? And vice versa. But at the end of the day, it really is our responsibility, and our health is our responsibility. Our research is our responsibility. Um, that way, when things go our way, we can take all the credit, you know, and not give it to someone else. And when things don't go our way, we can't blame someone else. Say, well, Dan told me to do this, and Dan said that this was the best product, and now I found out later it wasn't. Well, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make him drink, right? And so we can always point everyone, and like you said, education. Education is one of our main pillars with Axiom. Taking responsibility and educating ourselves, that's the best thing we could do. If you educate yourself, it should bring you to a similar point, a viewpoint, and a stand in life. And that's why people like you, Dan, and a lot of the people in our circle, we all vibe and resonate because we educate ourselves and we all kind of come to a very similar conclusion. Enough research at all, we all end up at the same place. And one of those places is you do enough research in health and wellness, we all end up as, hey, hydrogen is a pillar of health and wellness.
You are a gentleman and a scholar.
Right.
Thank you so much for being here, for doing this, taking the time to put the truth out about hydrogen, the impact, the importance. I say to people, as you just said, invest in yourself. It's the greatest investment you'll make because the more you learn and the better you are, the more you can help others as well. And I think the magic we seek is in the work we avoid. And if we turn around,
Mm.
do the work, put the investment in, and make smart decisions, we throw money away every day on things that give us a 20-minute fix, but leave us lower. And so I look forward to seeing your new release coming out in between 60 and 90 days. I'm going to hold you to that time frame. It better not be 91 days.
No, no, I won't.
But I really appreciate you sharing your time, your knowledge. I know you've invested your life into this, and I've learned a ton today, and I will continue to learn from you. So Mateo, thank
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being part of Born Superhuman. I look forward to, again, seeing you soon.
Thank you.
So what we're doing is we're looking at what is the voltage in the brain. And when you and I were born, we probably had 18.1 volts. That's pretty common for a baby. If you're below a 3, which we had somebody here at the clinic at a 3, you're probably experiencing dementia or Alzheimer's activity. When you close your eyes, you literally shut down 30% of your brain's neuroactivity. Unfortunately, most adults are too tired to sleep. Most adults are too tired to meditate. Most adults are too tired to actually use their mind to think. You remember, and everybody listening remembers everything you've ever seen, heard, or experienced. It's all recorded. The process, it's not that you don't remember it, it's you can't recall it. 2/3 of the world, Dan, is not sleeping right now. If you want to do something for your health, that's the first thing to fix, because that's when you incubate those superpowers you're talking about.